In this video, we're going to be taking a look at rates, and you'll need to have your Go Math book out, your math journal, and a pencil. And I want you to turn your Go Math book to page 155. Now, the essential question we're going to be taking a look at today: how do you use rates to compare quantities? Now, let's take a look at the Explore activity on page 155. I want you to look at your book or screen as I read this section: using rates to compare prices. So a rate is a comparison of two quantities that have different units. So for example, it says Chris drove 107 miles in 2 hours. This can be expressed as the rate shown at the right. Notice that your units are different. So we have miles and hours. So obviously miles is different than hours. Miles deals with distance, hours deals with time. So that's what it means by two quantities that have different rates. Quantities, remember, are 107 and 2. So also it says at the bottom, Shauna is at the grocery store comparing two brands of juice. Brand A costs $3.84 for a 16-ounce bottle. Brand B costs $4.50 for a 25-ounce bottle. So we can see the money here and then ounces. Those are the two different units that are being compared. All right, so what we can see here is we want to get to how much money it is for the equal amounts of juice. However, right now you can see brand A 16 ounces at $3.84, brand B 25 ounces at $4.50. 16 ounces and 25 ounces is not the same, so what we need to do is we need to get it down to a unit rate. In other words, we need to see how much does 1 ounce cost for brand A and brand B, and then we can really make a good comparison. So in order to do that, you can see you want to keep dividing by 2. Okay, and since you're dividing by 2 with the ounces, you have to divide the price by 2. So we take 16 divided by 2, that gives us 8. $3.84 divided by 2 gives me $1.92. We take 8, divide that by 2, that gives us 4. And we take that $1.92, divide that by 2, and that gives us 96 cents, 0.96. We take 4, divide that by 2, that gives us 2. Remember, we're trying to get down to the unit rate. In other words, how much is it per ounce? And so we take 4 divided by 2, that gives us 2. 96 cents divided by 2 gives us 48 cents, 0.48. I want you to write this in on page 155 with me. And then finally, 2 divided by 2 is 1. We're getting down to the unit rate now. Then we take 48 cents divided by 2. That gives us 24 cents. Now let's take a look at brand B. So what you can do with brand B is you can take 25 and we can divide that by 5, and that gives us 5 ounces. Now we need to take that $4.50, divide that by 5, and that's going to give us 90 cents. And then we take 5 divided by 5, and that gives us 1. And then we have 90 cents divided by 5 is going to give us 18 cents. So now that we have 1 ounce of brand A being compared to 1 ounce to brand B, we can make a good decision. So we can see that brand A costs 24 cents per ounce, 0.24. We can write that out. And brand B costs 18 cents per ounce, 0.18. That's how 18 cents can be written with a $sign in front of it. So which brand is the better buy? We can see that brand B is the better buy. Why is that? Okay, we can see that it costs less per ounce. So we can write it cost less per ounce. Why do we know that? Because we took it down to unit rates. So we can see, analyze the relationship. It said describe another method to compare the cost. So another way that we could do this, I want you to write this out as well. We can divide the cost of each bottle by the amount of juice. Okay, so in other words, we can see $3.84. We can divide it by 16 because there are 16 ounces of juice in brand A. That'll get us the price per ounce. Then $4.50 divided by 25 because that's how many ounces are in brand B, and that'll show us 18 cents per ounce. So that would be another way of doing it instead of just dividing by 2 multiple times and divided by 5 multiple times. So let's take a look at unit rates even a little bit more, page 156. Let's all turn to that page. So it says a unit rate is a rate in which the second quantity is 1 unit. So we got a little sneak peek to unit rates on 155. And when the first quantity in a unit rate is the amount of money, the unit rate is sometimes called a unit price or unit cost. Okay, so for example, let's take a look at example 1A. It says Gerald pays $90 for 6 yoga classes. What is the cost per class? Now, 90 to 6, okay, 90 to 6 would be the ratio, $90 for 6 classes, but that's not a unit rate. Remember, a unit rate has to have a second quantity is 1 unit. All right, so we see 90 classes, and what you can do says find the unit rate, divide both quantities in the rate by the same number so that the second quantity is 1. So you can take 6 classes, and we're going to divide 90 by 6, and 6 by 6. Why is that? Because we want one of these units to be 1. We can't divide both of these by 90 because that would make that 6 less than 1. All right, so we're going to basically think about the smaller of the number, of the two quantities, I should say. Divide them both by 6, you get $15 for 1 class. So that would be a way to do it as well. So it says, looking at a unit rate, the cost of 2 cartons of milk is $5.50. What's the unit price? So what you do, you take $5.50 for 2 cartons, you divide by 2. Why do you divide by 2? Because you have 2 cartons, and you divide 2 cartons by 2, and that'll give you 1 carton. $5.50 divided by 2 is $2.75. Okay, letter C. Let's take a look at this. Okay, so it says a cruise ship travels 20 miles in 50 minutes. How far does the ship travel per minute? Now, what we can see here, I said before, usually it's the smaller number that you can divide by, but since it's asking per minute, we cannot divide both of these by 20. We have to divide by the quantity that it was talking about, or by the unit it was talking about per minute. So we need to divide 20 miles divided by 50 because that's how many minutes there are. 20 divided by 50 is 4/10. 50 divided by 50 is 1 minute. So we can see 4/10 of a mile per minute. Now let's take a look at the reflection question there. It says explain how you could use a diagram like the one shown below to find the unit rate in A. Then complete the diagram to find the unit rate. So we can see, and you don't have to use this. This is just an idea that you can use. So we're not going to look at this in depth necessarily. But it says use one bar to represent total cost and the other bar to represent unit cost. Divide the total cost bar into equal parts to find the unit rate. So we can see 90 divided by 6 equals $15. So what you can see here, in other words, we can take a look at this and see 15, 15, 15, 15, 15, 15, all equals 90. All right, so 1 yoga class, we can see, is $15. So that would be a way that you could do this if you want to use something visual to figure that out. Okay, so let's take a look at number 3 on page 157. It says there are 156 players on 13 teams. So we're going to write it out just like this. 156 players on 13 teams. Now, it says how many players are on each team. So since they're asking how many players are on each team, what we need to do is divide both 156 and 13 divided by 13 to get that unit rate. So we're going to take that divided by 13, take this divided by 13. I can see 156 divided by 13 is going to give me 12. 13 divided by 13 gives me 1. Okay, so what I can see now, how many players are on each team? We have 12 players per team. Okay, so let's take a look at example number 2 on page 157. So it says problem solving with unit rates. It says you can solve rate problems by using a unit rate or using equivalent rates. So it says at a summer camp, the campers are divided into groups. Each group has 16 campers and 2 cabins. How many cabins are needed for 112 campers? Okay, so what we can see here, so a method one of doing this, what you could do is find the unit rate and then how many campers are in per cabin. So we have 16 campers divided by 2 because there's 2 cabins, gives us 8 campers and 1 cabin. Okay, now we know that there are 8 campers per cabin, and then what we can do is take that 112 campers, and we understand that we can take that 112 campers, divide it by 8 because there are 8 campers per cabin, and then from here we can see that there are a total of 14 cabins. Now, something else you can do, you can use equivalent rates to solve this as well. So this isn't trying to figure out how many are in each cabin necessarily. They're not asking that. Now, you will need to find that in order to understand that the 112 divided by 8, but understand that they're asking how many cabins are needed for 112 campers, so we can see 14 cabins. Now you can also use equivalent rates. And what you'll need to do here is take 16 and multiply it by a number that will give you 112. Now you may need to try, check, and revise. So if I take 16 and multiply it by 6, I understand that's only 96 campers. I would need to add one more. So if I take 16 campers, multiply it by 7, that does give me 112 campers that I'm looking for. And then whatever you do to one unit, you have to do to the other. 2 cabins times 7 would be 14 total cabins there. All right, now you can also use a diagram to check your work as well. Okay, so it says use a diagram to check the unit rate if there are 16 campers and 2 cabins. It says then the unit rate to check if 14 cabins is a reasonable number for 112 campers. So we can see 16 campers and there are 2 cabins. So you have the blocks that represent campers and the longer bars that represent cabins. You can see that there are a total of 8 campers per cabin. All right, so that will give you the unit rate, and it says the unit rate of 8 campers per cabin is reasonable. And then you can multiply 14 cabins by 8 campers per cabin and find that there would be enough room for the 112 campers. Now let's take a look at number 4, and I want you to complete number 4 all by yourself, and you can work on that now. Now you can see the answer for this. It says 45 minutes. Okay, so if you're showing all your work, we have 27 minutes divided by 3. 3 miles divided by 3 is 9 minutes. All right, so we can see for the answer here, 45 minutes, 9 minutes per mile, and you can see the work that we can see. So the unit rate is 9 minutes per mile for the answer there. All right, what I would like you to do is to work on number 1, complete both of those questions for number 1, and when you're finished, you can press play and you'll see the answer. So you can work on this now. So we can see the unit rate for each size of peanut butter. So the regular is 21 cents per ounce. So what you can see also that the family size is 19 cents per ounce. And then for number 2, we can see that the family size is the better buy since that is less money. So family size, you can write that in as well. Okay, so let's take a look at the essential question at the bottom of page 158. It says, how can you use a rate to compare the cost of 2 boxes of cereal that are different sizes? And what we can see for this answer, and I want you to write this down, it says divide the cost of each box by the size of the box in ounces to find the unit cost per ounce, and then you can compare the unit costs. So this concludes the video on rates, and if you have any questions about this concept, please come and see me.